I honestly don't even know how I'm upright right now. Like, what happens when you take a dozen massive egos, lock them in a confined, floating luxury hotel with literally zero sleep, and add just an unlimited supply of alcohol and pure, unadulterated entitlement?
You get a masterclass in psychological warfare. That's what you get.
You really do. And a complete breakdown of my own sanity. Like, babes, I cannot.
Yeah.
I literally cannot function today.
I mean, same. The sheer audacity displayed on the high seas this week requires immediate surgical dissection.
My nervous system is completely, utterly shattered. I am in a full-blown emotional spiral.
Well, if you actually look at the structural breakdown of that crew, the entitlement, the absolute lack of self-awareness.
Some of this delusion.
Right. The sheer delusional hubris we just witnessed, it honestly requires a masterclass in behavioral psychology to unpack, or at the very least, a heavily caffeinated beverage.
That's exactly. Good morning, babes. Welcome back. Remember, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit subscribe, babes, because we are your people. If you are surviving purely on vibes and delusion, you have found your safe space.
The only safe space on a Monday, honestly.
The drinks are officially on deck tonight. Because, babes, it's Monday. And on Mondays, we drink Alani energy drinks.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. I am so emotionally dependent on this caffeine right now. I wrap my hand around this cold aluminum can, and for a brief, fleeting second, I actually convinced myself that caffeine is going to fix adulthood.
I was already halfway through the can before we even started recording, so I get it.
Like, this is no longer just a beverage for me. This is an emotional support system. It is the only thing standing between me and a complete meltdown.
I'm not even tasting the artificial sweeteners anymore. I am just absorbing it into my bloodstream through sheer willpower. Because, let's face it, adulthood is essentially a scam.
A total scam.
Right. And we're just trying to survive the work week with nothing but carbonation and pure, unfiltered sarcasm.
It is so true. We were floating through the week on vibes and carbonation, and by the time most of you hear this, the work week will already be starting.
Surviving. Barely, but surviving.
The Monday morning dread will have officially set in.
Yeah.
So we genuinely hope you all have the best freaking day. And remember, you are all gorgeous queens and kings.
We have to affirm the Snark squad. We need the good energy.
We really do. Speaking of surviving, though, I'm already emotionally preparing for our upcoming week.
Oh, don't even remind me of the schedule.
Because, as you guys know, we are both dentists at separate practices, which is a very specific clinical type of chaos.
The clinical dread is very, very real.
I am looking at my schedule, and I am preemptively exhausted. Like the amount of emotional labor required to make small talk while my hands are physically inside another human being's mouth.
It's staggering. You have to understand the psychology of the dental chair, you know?
Oh, completely.
The patient is already in this vulnerable, anxious state, and we have to manage that anxiety while simultaneously performing microsurgery.
And smiling through it.
Exactly. I was analytically breaking down my patient roster last night, just trying to calculate exactly how many times I'm going to have to explain the basic mechanics of flossing.
It's the repetitive delusion of the general public that drains the soul. They genuinely believe they can brush once a week with baking soda and manifest healthy gums.
But wait, let me push back on that a little bit, because sometimes the small talk is the only thing that keeps me sane.
Wait, really? You like the small talk?
I mean, yes, it's draining, but when a patient starts spilling their messy divorce details while the suction tube is in their mouth, I live for it. I am taking mental notes.
Okay, fair. That is top-tier gossip.
Right. But the sheer volume of interaction is what breaks me, maintaining that polished, professional facade when internally I am screaming into the void.
It's the performance of professionalism, which actually requires an immense amount of stamina. But we do have one major high point to look forward to this week.
I guess we do.
We are finally visiting Joan and Felicia at the retirement home.
It has been a minute. I am already mentally preparing for the absolute unhinged stories we are going to hear.
Babes, I am so excited I could actually cry. I am already packing the tote bag. I am bringing all the snacks, the good cookies, the gossip magazine.
Those two are the OG Snark queens. They literally invented the game.
They really did. And you have to explain to me how they do it. How do two women locked in a facility playing bingo somehow always have the neighborhood gossip updates before anyone else?
It's because they understand the mechanics of information trading. It's like an intelligence network that rivals the CIA.
They know exactly whose husband is sleeping with the tennis instructor 3 towns over before the wife even knows.
Joan maps out the entire social hierarchy of the retirement home based on who gets their pudding cups first in the cafeteria. It's brilliant.
It's terrifying, honestly.
We go in there thinking we are going to entertain them, and instead we just sit there taking notes while Felicia clinically dissects the catastrophic life choices of her arch nemesis down the hall.
They have weaponized observation. It gives me life. It really does. But you know what's currently draining my life force and sending me into a spiral?
Please tell me it's the group chat.
The family group chat? Oh my God. The family group chat is still going off after our camping trip.
My thumb has been hovering over the leave conversation button for 48 hours.
And babes, we literally just spent 2 whole days together in the woods. 2 whole days. Why do families never stop texting?
The psychological warfare happening in that chat right now is astounding.
We were just staring at a campfire together. We had hours of face-to-face communication. And the second we all get in our separate cars, it's just ding, 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 nonstop.
And the photos, the endless barrage of random blurry photos being sent.
I am looking at a picture of a tree trunk right now. Just a blurry, poorly lit tree trunk. Why did my aunt send this? What is the narrative purpose of this tree trunk?
There is no narrative purpose. It is a complete breakdown of digital boundaries. What fascinates me is the phenomenon of collective memory rewriting.
Oh my gosh, yes. Everyone arguing over what just happened.
Right. It's not just the photos. It's the fact that everyone in the chat is aggressively arguing over the history of an event that literally just concluded. Like, no, the hot dogs were burnt on Saturday, not Friday. Why are we litigating the hot dogs?
We are back in civilization. It is chaos. Our mothers are continuing to cause absolute chaos in the chat.
One of them is passive-aggressively liking certain messages and completely ignoring others.
And I'm sitting here still responding politely, adding little heart emojis, acting like I am not entirely overwhelmed by the notification anxiety.
I want to mute the chat so badly, but if we are being completely honest, I need the mess. I am addicted to the sociology of it.
I am romanticizing the idea of throwing my phone into a river, but I also need to know if the hot dogs were burnt on Friday or Saturday.
Exactly. If I mute it, I might miss my uncle accidentally sending a highly personal text meant for his mechanic into the main family thread, and I live for that specific brand of secondhand embarrassment.
We are toxic. We love the mess, which actually brings me to another area of digital delusion I have been spiraling about. We honestly need to talk about influencers for a second.
It is hitting a critical mass of delusion right now.
And let me clarify really quickly to you guys. The Snark Squad? No, we do not consider ourselves influencers. We are just 2 besties talking into microphones, sharing our mess. But the influencer culture right now.
It's completely unhinged. Are influencers becoming less relatable over time? Because I swear, I am watching these day-in-my-life videos, and they are trying to pass off a Tuesday that clearly costs $4,000 as completely normal.
Ooh, I just woke up, put on my $500 silk robe, drank my imported matcha that was blessed by a monk, and went to my private Pilates session in a glass box. Babes, that is not a day in the life. That is a high-budget fantasy film.
What you are reacting to is the commodification of existence. It's the pretending that it's normal to vacation in Bali every single month that gets me.
Who goes to Bali every month?
Yeah.
Who has that PTO?
The economics don't make sense for 99% of the population, yet it's presented as an achievable baseline. I just want them to look directly into the ring light and admit that their life is a highly polished, heavily sponsored, completely unrealistic facade.
If they just owned the delusion, it would be fine. But it's the fake forced relatability that completely shatters the trust. I am emotionally mourning the loss of the old YouTube energy. Do you remember when content felt authentic?
Yes, just hanging out in messy bedrooms.
It was still aesthetic, and I love aesthetic content, I really do. But it was just someone sitting on their bedroom floor with terrible overhead lighting, showing you what they bought at the mall.
I miss that rawness. Social media is becoming so hyper-polished that all human relatability is just disappearing completely.
Let's connect that exact concept, though. The fake reality, the hyper-polished facade, the absolute delusion of unearned confidence. Let's connect that to the complete and utter meltdown we witnessed on television this week.
Because the parallels are stunning. The fake good vibes only mentality perfectly mirrors the behavior of a certain stew on the Katina.
The entitlement, the total lack of self-awareness, the refusal to take accountability, it is off the charts in the galley right now.
Babes, we have to get into it. The recap of Below Deck Down Under Season 4, Episode 17, When Egos Collide. And let me tell you, collide is the understatement of the century.
These egos didn't just collide, they crashed, burned, and sank to the bottom of the Caribbean. I am spiraling. let's establish the logistical reality of the boat right now because we are dealing with a massive power vacuum,
Right, Captain Jason just stripped Jenna of her stripe after her drunken screaming tirade around the yacht.
which, analytically speaking, was the only correct managerial move. You cannot have a department head screaming in the hallways.
Oh, absolutely. Jenna lost her mind, and she had to face the consequences. But the absolute chaos of what happens next in the Interior Department, I'm reacting so emotionally to Alicia right now.
Alicia, babes. Alicia, who previously threw a massive tantrum, who completely crashed and burned and failed as a galley hand because she couldn't handle the pressure of washing dishes.
Suddenly thinks she is ready to be promoted to second stew. It is a textbook case of the Dunning-Kruger effect.
She has zero comprehension of her own incompetence.
Let's break down the actual mechanics of what a second stew does on a super yacht. It is not just making beds. You are managing the entire flow of inventory. You are anticipating guest needs before they vocalize them.
You are handling crisis management in the laundry.
And you are the direct lifeline to the chief stew. Alicia made a few beds with hospital corners, and in her mind, this equates to senior management material. She literally thinks she's better than Jenna.
I was screaming at my television. Daisy rightly shuts Alicia down immediately. Daisy literally tells her, "You are too frazzled. You are too forgetful."
And let me tell you, I felt that in my soul. If I am running a department, I cannot babysit your emotional regulation.
And then the universe immediately proves Daisy right, because what happens?
The jacuzzi incident.
Yes. The guests ask Alicia to cool down the jacuzzi. Alicia turns the hose on, leaves the water running, and completely forgets about it. She walks away.
She almost overflows a massive body of water onto the deck of a luxury super yacht. And we need to explain why that is so dangerous, because it's not just a wet floor.
No, it's terrifying.
We are talking about marine engineering. A cubic meter of water weighs a metric ton. If you overflow a jacuzzi on the upper deck of a yacht, you are fundamentally altering the weight distribution of the vessel.
You risk water cascading down stairwells, shorting out multi-million-dollar electrical systems.
And creating a massive slip and fall liability for the guests. You want the second stripe. You want the responsibility. You cannot even remember to turn off a literal faucet.
Exactly. The boat would be underwire, and Alicia would be complaining that the sinking ship is ruining her vibe.
You know what? The Alicia delusion is honestly nothing compared to the absolute nightmare happening in the galley.
Because Chef Ben, oh my God, I'm spiraling just saying his name, Chef Ben has decided to weaponize the power vacuum.
He decides that he is going to push to have Ellie immediately promoted to his official sous chef. And why? Because he believes in her culinary journey. No, just to spite Daisy.
He wants to give Ellie a title purely to stick it to the chief stew. It is a political symbiotic relationship.
Ben claims Ellie's role has transformed. Transformed. He looks Captain Jason in the eye and says she made breakfast and cut some sushi.
But let's look at the psychology of spiting management here. Ben feels a loss of control because Daisy doesn't bow to his every whim, so he attempts to elevate an underling to create a rival power center.
He's trying to build a coalition against Daisy.
But wait, I have to emotionally defend Daisy to the ends of the earth here. Is Daisy perfect? No. But she points out the glaringly obvious fact that Ellie has not even cooked a single crew meal.
The only thing Ellie baked was Joanne's birthday cake, and it was objectively awful. It looked like a brick.
And Ben wants to give her a massive promotion. It is such a calculated, vindictive move.
And this is where Captain Jason proves why he is the ultimate organizational leader. Jason flat out rejects Ben's request. But he doesn't just say no, he uses institutional memory.
He reminds Ben that Ellie literally had a massive, unprofessional freakout in the galley only 4 charters ago. I was swooning over Jason in that moment. I literally paused the TV.
It is so satisfying when a manager actually pays attention to the reality of the floor. Jason saw right through the political play. He said, now is not the time.
Thank God someone on that boat has eyes. But of course, Ben's ego cannot handle being told no by the captain.
He internalizes that rejection, and he redirects his rage at Daisy. Which brings us to what I am officially calling the great fish fiasco of Canoan.
I am sweating just thinking about this dinner service, the sheer panic, the absolute stress. Ben decides for this ultra-luxurious super yacht dinner that he is going to serve a complex, whole, bone-in snapper, tableside.
Let's explain what silver service actually demands. Silver service is an art form originating from European aristocracy. It requires immense spatial awareness.
You are taking a complex dish, bringing it to the dining table, and performing the final stages of preparation, like deboning a whole fish. in front of a live, highly critical audience.
It requires specific utensils, perfect posture, and extreme speed because the temperature of that fish is degrading every second you stand there.
And Daisy is told to do this with zero warning. While the interior is already short-staffed, Ben just thrusts this massive snapper at her and expects her to perform surgery.
I would have started crying. I literally would have dropped the fish on the deck and walked off the boat into the ocean.
But why did Ben do it? We have to analyze the motive. Ben claims it's a spectacular display of local seafood, but mechanically, it is sabotage disguised as high-end culinary execution.
He is setting Daisy up in a no-win scenario. If she successfully debones the fish, it's a triumph for Ben's menu. If she fails and mangles the fish, she looks incompetent in front of the guests, and Ben can blame the interior department for ruining his masterpiece.
It was so hard to watch. She is standing there hacking at this fish. The guests are staring. You can see the bones everywhere.
Thank God Joan and Captain Jason step in to rescue her. They literally have to put on the black gloves and mangle the rest of the fish for the guests.
Which is mortifying for a superyacht crew. But notice how Jason handles crisis management compared to Ben. Oh, Jason saved the entire night.
Can we talk about Jason bringing out the birthday cake for the guest, Garrett?
My heart fluttered. Jason comes out barely clothed, wearing a literal disco helmet, fully committing to this bizarre bit as Adam with a fake snake. I swooned.
It completely distracted the guests from the fish disaster. But while Jason is actively solving the problem on the floor, what is Ben doing?
Ben is whining. He is in the galley whining to anyone who will listen. Daisy obviously does not have my back. She's not even here.
Ben. She is out there refilling a drink, like she explicitly told you she would have to do because you demanded silver service while they are down a stew.
And here comes Ellie. Ellie slides in like a treacherous assistant, actively feeding Ben's delusion. She stands there whispering poison in the chef's ear.
She tells Ben that Daisy sits on a very high horse and calls the service a disaster.
I am dragging Ellie for this. I am dragging her through the mud. She's supposed to be part of the crew, but she is acting like a high school mean girl, trying to get the teacher to hate the principal.
She is actively undermining the chief stew to the chef. It is so toxic.
But hold on, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Daisy is the chief stew. Is it possible that Daisy's lack of precise communication throughout the day contributed to Ben's frustration?
Oh, I see where you're going. Like, if you are running the interior, don't you have a responsibility to manage the chef's expectations, even if he is acting like a child?
I hear you, but no. I am defending Daisy. She is fighting a war on two fronts. She has Ben's aggressive ego pushing from the galley and Ellie's subtle sabotage pulling from within her own department.
How are you supposed to manage expectations when the chef is actively setting traps for you? Which leads directly into the absolute mess that was the morning radio warfare.
The radio miscommunication. Let's break down the timeline. Daisy tells the galley that the guests want a continental breakfast at 9 a.m.
Ellie immediately jumps down her throat and corrects her right in front of Ben, saying Captain Jason said 8 a.m.
And Daisy is so exhausted, she just gets entirely defensive. She crawls into bed with Joanne, and she calls Ben and Ellie Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Which, honestly, valid. It's the perfect insult for those two. They are just bouncing off each other's toxic energy.
Ellie was technically right about the 8 a.m. time, but it's the delivery. It's the constant public undermining, and this escalates to the explosion at lunch.
Ben notices that his precious lobster salad hasn't been delivered to the table yet, so what does he do? He aggressively gets on the open radio, where every single crew member can hear, to reprimand the interior.
And Daisy snaps. She has had enough. She snaps back over the open radio for the whole world to hear. If you want to do it, you can bring it up yourself or get your assistant to bring it up.
Oof. When she said your assistant, referring to Ellie, you could feel the temperature drop on the entire vessel.
But let's explain why open channel radios are so vital. On a superyacht, the radio is a safety lifeline. It is meant for operational logistics, docking communication, and emergencies.
When you use an open channel to broadcast a petty squabble over lobster salad, you are grossly misusing a critical resource. It is a broadcasted power struggle.
Even Jason and Joanne, who are on a completely different deck, heard that and muttered, "That's not good."
I felt Daisy's exhaustion in my bones. She is fighting for her life out there, and Joanne perfectly summarized it. He said it's a battle of two very big egos.
It is. Daisy refuses to back down, and Ben expects everyone to bow. But somehow, they survive the charter.
Barely. And the guests actually leave a fantastic tip. $23,000, that's about $1,700 for each crew member. I would have been crying tears of joy.
But the high doesn't last, because Jason hits them with the ultimate logistical nightmare, a brutal 24-hour turnaround.
24 hours. Babes, explain to the Snark Squad why a 24-hour turnaround is so devastating. Because people at home might think, oh, a whole day to clean, that's plenty of time.
A 24-hour turnaround is physically and psychologically devastating. You have a crew that has been operating on maybe 4 hours of sleep a night for days.
Within 24 hours, they have to completely strip the boat, detail every single surface with Q-tips, manage massive provision deliveries, restock all the liquor, and somehow reset their own emotional baseline to greet the next group of millionaires with a massive smile.
Doing that on zero sleep strips away all emotional regulation. And the cherry on top. The incoming guests are Brandon and Carmen, the notorious return guests.
The ones who brought a literal professional photographer to a basic steakhouse dinner last time they were on the boat.
The ones where Brandon got so drunk he went swimming and almost got kicked off the yacht.
Yeah.
I am spiraling just thinking about having to serve them on zero sleep.
So the stakes are incredibly high. The crew is exhausted. Daisy asks Barbie to go grab the guest comment cards so the interior can review them and start prepping. And what does Ben do?
He acts like a literal toddler. He hoards the comment cards. He refuses to hand them over because he claims he's reading them.
Daisy tells him the interior has a massive amount of work to do, and Ben just says no and goes to take a nap with Ellie. I would have ripped them out of his hands.
It is the psychology of information withholding.
Right.
In any workplace power struggle, whoever controls the flow of information controls the dynamic.
By hoarding the cards, Ben is signaling to Daisy, my time and my curiosity are more valuable than your operational needs. It sets a very dark, bitter tone for what is supposed to be a fun crew night out.
The crew night out.
Yeah.
Babes, this was the messiest, most chaotic night out we have seen all season. They go to this beach bar in Canoein, and at first there's actually a really beautiful moment with Eddie and Jenna.
Yes, Eddie pulls Jenna aside, and he actually apologizes to her for his part in her getting demoted. He admits that he let his romantic emotions get the best of him.
And Jenna looks at him, and she vows to take full oafing responsibility to earn her stripes back. I was actually so proud of Jenna in that moment. That is real growth.
She owned her mess. She didn't make excuses. She just said, I messed up and I will fix it. It was a rare, genuine moment of adult accountability on this boat.
But of course, the emotional maturity couldn't last because the vibe police had to arrive.
Ugh. Alicia and Ellie. Alicia suddenly demands that Eddie and Jenna be present and stop having deep conversations.
And then Ellie aggressively jumps in, practically yelling at Jenna across the table to stop bringing the vibe down every time they go out.
Let's pause and appreciate the ultimate hypocrisy here. Ellie is ruining the entire vibe of the dinner by screaming at someone else about the vibe.
This is weaponized, toxic positivity. She is essentially dictating that everyone must perform happiness for her comfort. You must smile and act the way I want you to act, or I will publicly reprimand you.
It's so fake. It's so controlling. And while this screaming match is happening, Daisy and Joam are literally kissing in front of everyone.
Which Ben is watching. And you can see the cortisol levels rising, the rage is building. Ben spends the entire night doing this highly passive-aggressive running gag with Barbie, where they are slowly picking up their table and moving it further and further away from the rest of the group.
It was so weird and petty. By the end of the night, they were physically separated from the crew. It's middle school isolation tactics.
Daisy finally decides to be the bigger person. She walks over to try and talk to him to smooth things over regarding Ellie. And Ben just loses it.
He calls Daisy a mean Irish nanny, cruises at her, says he's off the clock, and literally storms off the beach and heads back to the cantina by himself.
He completely shuts down. He refuses to communicate. And this emotional dysregulation leads us to the climax of the episode, the ultimate disrespect, the cabin violation.
I am still gasping. I am still clutching my imaginary pearls.
So earlier in the day, before they left for the bar, Jenna explicitly mandated to everyone that no one is allowed to touch, sit on, or enter the freshly made guest cabins. The turnaround is in 13 hours. Everything has to be pristine.
It's a fundamental sacred rule of yachting. You do not sleep in a turned-over guest cabin before a charter. The amount of labor it takes to make those rooms perfect is immense.
But Ben, drunk, angry, and feeling entirely entitled, completely ignores the rule. He marches onto the boat, goes directly into a pristine VIP guest cabin, completely messes up the bed, and locks the door from the inside to go to sleep.
We need to analyze why he unmade the bed. He has his own bunk. He could have slept on top of the covers, but unmaking the bed is a symbolic destruction of the Interior Department's labor.
He is physically manifesting his anger at Daisy by destroying the work of her team. It is a giant middle finger to the women on that boat.
Juan comes back to the boat later, realizes Ben isn't in his bunk, and realizes exactly what has happened. He has to go wake up the ship's engineer in the middle of the night just to get the master key.
João unlocks the door, walks in, and tells Ben, very firmly but calmly, that he cannot sleep there.
And the explosion, I gasped. Ben wakes up swinging his hands. He is completely unhinged.
He starts cursing João out at the top of his lungs. He is screaming, "Piss off. João, get the F out of here. Go F yourself, a-hole, wanker." And João just flips him off.
It was a horrific display of unchecked privilege. And the internet has spoken. I was diving into the Reddit threads, and the consensus is brutal. The fans are tearing Ben apart.
As they should. He's a grown man acting like an infant.
Someone on Reddit pointed out a crucial, illuminating detail, which is that Ben went to boarding school with Prince Harry. And they noted that his blue blood is showing.
And it absolutely is. This is the behavior of a 50-year-old man who has never been told no in his entire life without throwing a tantrum.
Yes, the entitlement. And there was this whole discussion online comparing Ben to Jenna. Jenna got demoted and lost her strike for having a drunken meltdown. She faced immediate consequences. But Ben historically gets away with this kind of behavior.
Exactly. The double standard is glaring. He spent years cultivating this cheeky, chappy, lovable British chef persona. But the mask slipped.
People are pointing out that women on these boats get punished instantly for being emotional, but the male chef is allowed to throw plates, scream at staff, destroy a VIP cabin, and everyone is just supposed to tiptoe around his culinary genius.
I am livid. I am so livid that he purposely unmade that bed just to prove a point. He looked at the hours of manual labor that Daisy, Jenna, and Barbie put into cleaning that room, and he essentially said, "My comfort and my anger are worth more than your labor. It makes me sick."
It is the ultimate sign of a toxic coworker, which actually bridges us perfectly into our first segment, because speaking of people who absolutely disrespect the labor of others...
Welcome to segment 1, Who Would Be Fired First? We need to debate which Katina crew member would absolutely not survive working a single shift at our respective dental practices.
Oh, this is a fascinating hypothetical. Let's break down the clinical liability.
This is so easy for me. Without a shadow of a doubt, I am firing Ellie. She wouldn't make it to her lunch break.
Walk me through the termination. What is the inciting incident?
Imagine Ellie in a dental office. First of all, she would immediately try to pull rank on the senior dental hygienists.
Oh, she definitely would.
She would be walking around telling women who have been scaling teeth for 20 years how to hold a suction tube just because she read a pamphlet in the break room once.
Actually, Jason said we suction at an 80-degree angle, so your technique is ruining my vibe.
Yes, and can you imagine her toxic positivity during a stressful procedure? Imagine we are in the middle of a complex, bloody root canal. The patient is anxious, I am sweating, trying to find the nerve canal, and Ellie starts yelling across the clinic for everyone to stop bringing the vibe down.
The patient's crying is really ruining the aesthetic of the waiting room. Could we ask them to weep more quietly?
I would fire her on the spot. Pack up your scrubs, Ellie, you are done. But who are you firing?
For me, the ultimate liability is Alicia. If Alicia gets frazzled over making a bed, if she literally forgets to turn off a giant roaring jacuzzi on the deck of a yacht, imagine her managing sensitive patient medical files.
Oh, no. Oh, the HIPAA violations. I am spiraling.
She would be sending Mrs. Higgins' panoramic x-rays to the pizza delivery guy. But worse, imagine her handling the sterilization of dental tools. Oh, I forgot to turn the autoclave on, but I wiped the drills with a paper towel so the vibe is clean.
Malpractice suits. We would lose our licenses. We would be in federal prison.
She'd be out by 10 a.m. We cannot have frazzled energy when there are high-speed drills operating millimeters from a patient's tongue.
Okay, valid. Completely valid. But even though we would absolutely fire them, we wouldn't mind being their clients. Which brings us to segment 2, luxury we secretly want.
Let's examine the absurd, delusional rich people habits we saw in this episode that we would adopt immediately if we hit the lottery tomorrow.
I will admit it right now. I have no shame. If I had super yacht money, I would demand a flawlessly executed continental breakfast at exactly 8:00 a.m. every single day.
Not 9:00 a.m.
Not 9:00 a.m. 8:00 sharp. And I wanted to explain what I mean by continental breakfast because I don't mean a stale bagel. I want fresh, artisanal French pastries.
Okay, yeah.
I want a fruit platter cut into shapes I didn't know fruit could take. I want imported butter. And I want it waiting for me the second I open my eyes. I want to wake up and just walk directly into a carbohydrate wonderland.
See, I respect the pastry demand. The logistics of fresh pastries at sea are impressive, but I am zeroing in on Brandon and Carmen, the incoming guests.
Steakhouse photographers.
Yes, I fully admit that bringing a personal, professional photographer to a basic, land-based steakhouse dinner is the exact kind of delusional main character energy I secretly aspire to have.
It is so unhinged. You're just eating meat.
Think about the psychology of it. You're just chewing a ribeye, but you have a guy with a massive flashbulb documenting you like you're walking the red carpet at the Met Gala. It is psychotic, and I want it. Next time we go to Olive Garden, I'm hiring a paparazzo. I want candid, high-resolution shots of me aggressively eating unlimited breadsticks.
I love that for you. I will pose with the salad bowl. But honestly, demanding a photographer is chaotic, but it's nothing compared to the chaos of how these people communicate with each other, which perfectly transitions us into segment 3, group chat crimes.
Let's break down the most chaotic things families do in group chats, using the absolute disaster of the crew's radio behavior as our analytical jumping-off point.
The radios are exactly like a family group text. Think about it. Everyone can see it, nobody can escape it, and people use it to be incredibly passive-aggressive to a captive audience.
It is the exact same behavioral psychology. Take Ben and Daisy's radio sniping, Ben yelling about the lobster salad, Daisy snapping back to get his assistant to do it. The whole boat had to listen to that.
It's so messy.
That is exactly like when two family members start a deeply personal, aggressive, years-old argument in the main family group text, instead of just taking it to a private direct message.
Yes. When your aunt and your cousin start fighting over a will from 1998, and you are just sitting there watching the typing bubbles pop up, trapped in the digital crossfire. Take it to DMs. We do not all need to see this. It gives me so much anxiety.
Everyone else in the chat is just Joao and Jason muttering to themselves, that's not good, but refusing to intervene.
And what about Ben hoarding the guest comment cards? He literally held the information hostage because he was being petty.
It's infuriating.
That is the digital equivalent of that one aunt who reads a message asking for the address to the family reunion, but deliberately refuses to reply with the needed information just to maintain a twisted sense of power.
The read receipt is on. You know she saw it. The timestamp proves she saw it. But she's making you wait. It's information warfare. It's a microaggression designed to make you feel dependent on her.
It makes me spiral. It is calculated pettiness. And that kind of calculated pettiness is exactly what makes someone seem entirely fake. Which brings us to our final segment for the day, segment 4, influencer red flags.
Let's tie this all back to our influencer debate from the intro. What specific behaviors instantly make an influencer or a yachty feel entirely fake and toxic?
For me, it is 100% Ellie's behavior at the Canoe and Beach Bar.
Yeah.
Loudly policing other people's emotions. Screaming at people to fix their vibe. That is the ultimate influencer red flag to me.
The weaponization of good vibes only.
Exactly. If an influencer's entire brand is about being relentlessly positive to the point where they attack anyone who is having a normal human emotion or a tough day, they are fake. It is a curated facade.
Real life has bad vibes sometimes.
Jenna was having a real moment of vulnerability and accountability, and Ellie tried to crush it because it didn't fit her aesthetic of a fun night out.
Yeah.
Red flag. Unfollow.
I completely agree. The insistence on constant positivity is a form of emotional manipulation, and my red flag, perfectly illustrated by Chef Ben, is the complete and utter lack of accountability.
Oh, say it louder for the people in the back.
When someone never, ever thinks anything is their fault, Ben's entire blue blood entitlement mirrors the absolute worst kind of influencer.
The ones who do the Notes app apologies.
The kind of influencer who gets caught in a massive scandal, who clearly did something wrong, and instead of just issuing a genuine apology, they post a Notes app screenshot doubling down on their entitlement.
I'm sorry you were offended by my actions.
Exactly, the non-apology apology. Ben messing up the bed, disrespecting the interior, and then screaming at Joan when he gets called out. That is the influencer who refuses to apologize when confronted with reality. They just attack the person holding the mirror up to them. It shows a complete disconnect from reality and a fundamental lack of respect for other people's existence.
Babes, the psychology of this episode is truly unmatched. My brain is buzzing. I think it's the Alani energy drinks, but I also think it's just the sheer volume of mess we just unpacked.
We have survived the high seas, we have survived the group chat trauma, and I think we are slightly more prepared to survive Monday.
We really are. Thank you to the Snark Squad for hanging out and surviving this Monday with us. We literally could not do this without you.
We need you to weigh in down in the comments because we have questions for you. First, What is your family group chat actually like? Tell us the darkest, blurriest photo secrets.
I need to know.
Second, are influencers becoming completely unrelatable, or are we just getting cynical?
And truthfully, the most important question, could you survive yacht life emotionally? Or would you end up locked in a guest cabin, screaming at the first officer while wearing a disco helmet? Be
I
honest.
know exactly where I'd be.
Locked in the cabin.
Well-
Same. Babes, please remind yourselves to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with your messiest bestie. The one who needs to hear this right now.
The one whose read receipts are on but who never replies.
Yes, send it to them. Have the best week ever, queens and kings. We love you so much.
Until next time,
Stay caffeinated,
stay chaotic.
and we will see you on the Snark side. But wait, really quickly, before we completely sign off, I just keep seeing the image of Ben, this grown 50-year-old man, aggressively unmaking a pristine bed just because he was mad at his coworker.
It's a haunting image.
Like, think about the energy it takes to actively destroy something beautiful just to prove you can. If that isn't the most perfect metaphor for every toxic relationship we've ever discussed, I don't know what is. Just a little something to mull over while you're sitting in traffic tomorrow.